My husband is on death row.
You are my sunshine, my only sunshine.
Hi, Scene TV. This is my story. Louisiana has started ramping up executions. In fact, they had an execution last month, and it was the first one in 15 years. So it is a reality. We have talked about this from the beginning of our relationship. I actually met my husband through prisonpenpals.com. I was moved to write someone that was on death row, and I was actually going to write someone in Texas, and then I stopped myself and I said, I want to see if there's anybody closer to home, like in Louisiana. I had never written to anybody in prison before. I had never visited a prison before. I had no experience with the prison system, but I was just moved to reach out to let them know they weren't alone and that, people out here care about them because they're human beings. When I first initially read his profile, I was kind of moved because it was different from a lot of the other profiles. It seemed very genuine, and it seemed like he was just looking for a connection with somebody on the outside. When I first wrote to him was in August of 2016, and we didn't actually have a visit until the very end of November. And that first visit, he was coming through the door, and in the door there's this little window, and he popped his head in and he had the biggest smile. Just seeing that and having that moment, it's burned in my memory forever as our first moment. And it was so powerful, but yet so sweet. And it was just good to see him because he had this big, goofy smile in the window. And seeing him in person just solidified that this is my person. This is my soulmate. This is who I'm meant to be with. I had looked into his case before I even wrote to him. I wanted to make sure. I'm a researcher, so I love digging and finding things and making sure this was a decision that this was a road that I did want to go down. And I wanted to hear it from him. And so our first contact visit, he did sit there in front of me face to face. I told him, I said, look, if I'm going to go down this road with you, if I'm going to be supporting you and riding with you and fighting all this stigma, I deserve the truth. And I deserve, to know what happened that day from your mouth. And he told me the whole story. He had just turned 20 years old. He was a first-time offender. So he had never been incarcerated before. So he just got in with the wrong crowd, and they put him in the wrong position to make a really bad decision. I call it a carjacking gone wrong that went into the possible worst case scenario. Unfortunately, a gentleman lost his life. He's been incarcerated for 26 years. And he's not the same person at 46 that he was at 20 years old. He proposed to me in the visitation room. So it was myself, him, his best friend, which is his sister, and his two parents, his mom and his stepdad. They got down on one knee and he asked me, he's like, I've been feeling, you've walked into my life and you've changed my life. And you've made me a better man, and I want you to be my wife. So that's how he proposed. We actually had our own little private ceremony. We had a commitment ceremony in the visiting shed where we read vows to each other, and we celebrated just sitting together and spending the day together and eating cake and having, a moment to ourselves that no walls, no barbed wire, no man could ever take away. He's the man I was looking for my whole life. He's funny, he's caring, he's spiritual, he's emotional, he's supportive, he's smart, he's intelligent, he's well-read, he's very cultured. So him being all of those things wrapped into one is what kept us here 9 years later. For right now, he hasn't finished all of his appeals, so he is safe at this point. We have hope that with his case in particular, he can hopefully get off of death row, even if that means getting a life sentence or something like that. Because, the other people that were there with him that were convicted of the same crime did not get the death penalty, only he did. So we're hopeful that, with laws changing, with bills being put forward, and hopefully with things in his case that he can get off. But we have talked about the day of what that would be like. And, we talked about the fact that if I was able to be there, I would have my hand on the glass. I wouldn't want him to be alone. And I would see him on the other side one day, and we would sing You Are My Sunshine in our heads because that's our song.
You are my sunshine, my only sunshine.
Yeah, that's pretty much what we would do. Thank God we had the time that we had together here. on this earth in this life. And thank God I found him. I'm blessed to have met my soulmate in this lifetime because I know people walk this earth every day, year after year, looking for their person, and they never find it. So I count myself very blessed and highly favored to have found a love that I have found in my husband. For the longest time, I actually lived what we call in the prison wife closet. I did not come out and tell my friends and my family. In fact, my family, my mom and my dad found out. I didn't openly tell them. And, they were very upset at first. It took my mom about 7 years to actually kind of accept that this is a relationship that I choose to be in. I recently just came out to my niece, who is in her early 20s, and she has been so supportive. And friends that have found out, because I don't really come out with it, people just find out, and they're surprisingly, very supportive of me because they know me. They know the kind of person I am, and I'm not changing myself to be with him. I'm still me at the end of the day. And so when people do find out, I've been pleasantly surprised that they're actually very supportive. I think meeting him changed my life for the better, and it's made me a more well-rounded person. It's also made me open my eyes to the injustices of the justice system. It's made me more educated. It's made me do a lot more research on things and not just make blanket ignorant statements about incarcerated individuals, which I might have done in the past. So it's really opened my eyes to a whole new world that a lot of people are just choosing not to be familiar with and not educate themselves on. I think people need to understand that these people, while they're incarcerated, are doing amazing things. Some of them are doing ministry. Some of them are getting an education. Some of them are reaching out and being mentors. They're capable of more than just maybe a really horrible and tragic mistake that they made earlier in their life or previously in years that they messed up and they made a bad decision. I try to cope with the hard days of being a death row wife. I had a lot of them in the beginning of my journey. I still get them every once in a while. Sometimes it takes several days for me to get out of that. I call it a funk, where I'm feeling it's a pity party. I'm feeling sorry for myself because I don't have all the things that a lot of other people in my life around me have. So I try to just find ways to help me get rid of that anxiety, whether that's yoga, working out, nature walking, taking a nap. It could be a plethora of things. I'm never going to sugarcoat this journey. It's not an easy road, but if you found someone that you love and they just happen to be incarcerated, it doesn't mean that it's not true love, and it doesn't mean that our love is invalid, because like I said, he's the man I've been looking for my whole life. I am seen. Are you?